Live. Greetings, Pathfinders. I'm your host, Dustin Knight, with our special guests, Darazumi and Tony Saunders. Welcome back to another edition of Infiknight Reviews. Tonight, we're reviewing Witches Plus, along with its authors. So welcome, Derry. Welcome, Tony.
Hi.
So, first, I need to clarify that all reviews on this show are my own and have not been reviewed or endorsed by Paizo. My ongoing goal is to showcase and review as many products on Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite as possible. If you have any requests for products I haven't already given a thorough review, please feel free to contact me on social media or catch me on my Discord at infinite.net. Welcome to the show. I have seen you both and talked to you both on Discord and throughout the Paizosphere, and you've both been very active on the Discord. But I've never actually asked either of you before, so I'll just go alphabetically and start with Derry. How did you get into tabletop gaming, and when did you start writing your own material for it?
Okay, so I have the answer that is correct and the answer that is more fun. Tabletop, I got into Pathfinder because someone invited me to a game and I liked it, and they were taking too long to, move the story on. So I was like, I can do better than this, and I grabbed some of my friends and we started playing our own game. And I was right. I could do better. And we've been playing for, I think, our 5th anniversary of being a game group is this August, September maybe. So we've been at it for a while. The one that's more fun though is when I was 15, I had 2 friends and I'd seen people playing Dungeons and Dragons, just through cultural osmosis, and I was like, that looks really fun. But I was also 15 and didn't have any books and also live in Ireland, so I made my own system. It was called Gardens and Gnomes, and it was just improv. There was no damage dice. There was a d20 for rolling stuff. One of them was playing Keanu Reeves, and one of them was playing the world's edgiest rogue, and there were 2 players. So to move on to your second part of the question, the correct answer and the funny answer is that's when I started writing for TTRPGs. But the correct answer is I think, oh god, also close to 5 years ago now. I got really into a webcomic called Homestuck, and all my friends were really into it as well. And we decided we were going to make a Discord for basically a West Marches style living server, and we were going to rip the rules for Monster of the Week and make a Homestuck version of Monster of the Week. And as more and more people started flooding into the server, we started realizing that this extremely poorly balanced version was not doing it for people. So we made our own system, and flash forward 5 years, we've got Subgrubs and Snazzards, which is, I think, 600 pages long now, with something like over 1,000 character options.
Wow.
It's and because this particular fandom has a yearly holiday, we always have to have a huge content update every year on the same date. So it's an intense writing schedule. But yeah, that's when I got started into TTRPG, and that's when I got started into writing.
Great. Yeah, your avatar on Discord is Homestuck, right?
Yep, that's right. It's always very fun to have that, because when people recognize it, you're like, it's nice, because not everyone will, but some people will, and it's always like, you've been around for a while.
That's great. And how about you, Tony? When did you start getting into tabletop gaming and writing for it?
So for the record, I would play Gardens and Gnomes. Just throwing it out there. That sounds really cool. But
yeah.
I started when I was 10. I begged my dad to teach myself and my sister to play, and we played with our stepbrother at the time. And so from there, I was of course tasked with coming back as someone's got to learn how to GM because
Yeah.
no one else could. And and just like all addictions, you start down the path and it just goes way down there. So I basically was just a GM that homebrewed for like a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Wrote started in 3.0 all the way through Pathfinder first edition and then into second edition. And then, second edition, I fell in love pretty early. Like playtest, there were some things to spit shine, but I liked it then. And I think, believe it or not, the Paizo forums, I will say, they can be their place, but they're also they're a place. But they also have some really brilliant minds and some really cool people. So I started writing. I think it was just random little off the cuff stuff in some threads, like, oh, what if they did this, particularly with the playtest stuff. I started like doing little tidbits, and then one of my colleagues, Kostin Schelling, he actually wrote
Mm-hmm.
a first kind of rough draft at something called a drifter, which was like the what if the gunslinger didn't look like it does now, because this was pre-gunslinger playtest and everything. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then they kind of like left it go for like a while, and so I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna try like drifter but a different take. Like I had a different perspective, so I wrote that, and then I got like this little cult following, like where people really loved that class, the concept, I think. And then from there, I got in contact. I was like, all right, I think maybe I could do this. And then I talked to, believe it or not, Mike Sayer is a champion.
Yeah.
But I asked him advice. I was like, so like, what do you do when you want to take that next step? And he was like, you know what? Try hitting up Jason Nelson, see if there's anything he has running for you. And then lo and behold, like not that much longer later, I was in Boracubos and working on some stuff. And that's when I met, awesome dev Dustin over here. We got to, do some cool things for Boracubos, which I still love that supplement. And then the last year's has been a roller coaster of projects. So it's kind of like one of the thing led to the next, and here I am.
Yeah, we worked on shamans together. That is still one of my favorite base classes. I'm just going to link that in chat. And then I saw that you also released Legendary Hunters and Wanderers, which
Wanderer was the was what my version of the Drifter ultimately became.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then Hunter I wrote with Kostin. So I think we did a really good job on that one. Yeah, we were happy with the conversion.
Awesome. That's really cool. I love it. I need to do reviews of those as well then. I have a total backlog here. So, we'll probably be seeing you again if you're up for it. But
of course,
Derry, I want to ask you some questions. I saw that you're an animator and an illustrator, and I think that's awesome because, you also did the artwork here for Witches, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and the artwork in this book is just fantastic. I absolutely adore it. I'm just gonna skip through really quick so people could see some of this artwork because it's grand. We'll be doing a full review on the show, so you'll be able to see those in more detail. But I would like to ask, how did that start? What influences do you have in your style, and what experiences do you have as an illustrator, animator that you'd like to bring up?
So this is a very funny question. I got started into art by Captain Underpants, the book series.
Okay.
The reason being is that they, in the books, I think in the very first one, they talked about how they made their own comics by folding over like 13 pages or so and then just filling it out with a story. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. I'm going to do that. So I started there, and then I couldn't ever stop drawing. You might even see an extremely low detail, like drawings I did as a kid, just plastered on the walls around this room. And I continued doing that. I wanted to do webcomics when I was younger and didn't need money to survive because that's not a profitable industry at all. So then I went into school for comics, and that's kind of when my style started to develop. And also I tagged on animator because, again, you need money to survive, and animation is a more profitable industry for the most part especially in Ireland. Like we have
Mm.
Cartoon Saloon, which has done like all those movies you might have seen, like Wolf Walkers or Song of the Sea or whatever. We don't have any major comic studios, so I I started studying more on that. So you'd have stuff like Cartoon Saloon, and they're very very stylistic art.
Mm-hmm.
But I also was inspired very much so by like internet stuff, especially stuff that was popular when I was kind of coming to age on the internet, like the Mystery Skulls animated series for it's
Mm.
a series of music videos, which God, that must have been 2014 or so. The art style in that is all very stylistic, very sharp edges and like big eyes and vibrant colors, which you'll see a lot of here. Um, and weirdly enough, the Panty and Stockings anime, which I swear is not as bad as it sounds if you are not aware.
It's so good.
It's very good. The wild thing is I've never actually sat down and watched it.
Oh,
I literally looked at the art of it and said, "This is great. I'm stealing it." And it's a huge part of how I draw, and I've never actually sat down and watched it, and I really should. So yeah,
oh,
that's where I'm coming from mostly.
yes. That's great. That is great. So I also see that you're a player in the live play podcast Dice Will Roll.
That's right.
And you have a new campaign starting in just a couple days?
Yes, on Monday actually.
Ooh.
And Witches Plus was made. Originally, it was started because of this campaign, and I'll talk about that later. But
Okay.
yeah, we're going to be playing Fists of the Ruby Phoenix,
Mm.
which is a Paizo official adventure because their stuff's just so good, and also I
Right.
don't have to write anything myself. I say as if I didn't spend the entire, I think all of last week, every single moment of my free time, I was statting up NPCs for 32 fighting teams, knowing damn well that party will probably encounter 6 tops.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically a martial arts fighting tournament.
Mm-hmm.
It's inspired by a lot of rather Western fantasy, Eastern fantasy. So there's a lot of anime and JRPG, but also some myths and legends from like Korea and the Philippines and China and Mongolia even. And it kind of comes together in this love letter to in a nostalgic way a lot of the formative media that the entire cast grew up with, like we've got a character who's very inspired by Naruto. We've got a character who's very inspired by Ranma one half, and another one who's very inspired by magical girl Doremi, which we will talk a lot about that character specifically as we go through. But yeah, that's starting Monday. It's level 11 to level 20. So if you're not in a Ruby Phoenix game, I would really recommend checking this one out because it's a lot of fun. That'll be on Spotify or diceroll.com, or just you can find us around. We're here and there.
Yes, and for those watching, we have links in the chat for everything. So go check it out. I really want to check it out too, but I have a friend who we both promised each other we would not listen to Ruby Phoenix, specifically just Ruby Phoenix podcast. So, but after I'm done with Ruby Phoenix, I'll totally give it I'll totally listen.
For sure. You gotta dodge the spoilers. That's the one thing. There's so many people who are like, damn it, they're playing Ruby Phoenix, but I can't.
Right. But it looks like a really, really, really good adventure path from what I've heard.
Oh my
from the
God.
limited information I have.
I've read through every single adventure path so far.
Mm-hmm.
Ruby Phoenix is definitely like at least in the top 3. It is incredible.
Yeah, it looks really good. So zipping back to Tony, I see that you're also a mod on at least Pathfinder 2e and the Pathfinder 2e creation subreddit. And those, I mean, there was just a shout out to those, I want to say on No Direction or on an official Paizo cast, or maybe I was listening to a PaizoCon thing, or I mean, I hear about them all the time. I see them all the time. I post there as much as I can. And those are really, really active communities. So, man,
They they really are. I mean, I'm the main one in particular, especially the last couple months have been, of course, we did beginner box day, and then there was PaizoCon, and so the last 2 months, as far as like how much activity has been kind of explosive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm violating the mod rules or whatever. So we've had like the last 2 months, we had 4 million collective page views over the month,
Mm.
and yeah, a lot of eyes. And then I think like just south of like about like 200,000 uniques, which means that on a day-to-day basis, like pretty much. And the thing I love about those subs is they're they're people that come there to hang out, right? They come there to talk about the game. It's like their place, right?
Yeah.
So and the ones that frequent there, like you've got like there's quite a few that I mean I've seen, like they're in like every thread. They've got really insightful takes on the game, and there are challenges to being a mod too. But like overall, I think this both of those community creations too are just some really solid communities, really great people there, just wanting to talk about a game and having fun. And they're very, supportive. Right now, we're doing Pride Month, which is really awesome. And like we do a new banner, Rule Lord gets those set up for us. And I try to like style a couple of things to make it work. And then the sub just really embraces it. Super great. So overall, it's not as being a mod isn't too bad. It's got its upsides. You get to see all the great things happening.
Yeah, and it's a really positive community too. I every time I go, it's a place I go when I just want to hang out about Pathfinder and not feel any pressure or toxicity. It's a great community. There's even a lot of content on there from, like, I know Luis Loza posts occasional like surveys about the Lost Omens line, and Mark Seitfer just posted some spoilers today about his Roll for Combat
Odamon.
ancestry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was the Oni today. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Saw that.
Yeah.
The content creators that we get to, I mean, even today, Alex from Everybody Games came and talked about what the community wanted with after Kitsunes of Galarian inside that line, and like what potentially be the next option for players. And I think it's really cool when creators are willing to come in there and kind of engage with the community, because that community in particular, they know what they want. They have very specific wants and needs. And if you tell them, hey, I'm listening, like tell me what it is that you want from me, and they have that dialogue open up, it's pretty great. In fact, I will say I think that's a big part of why Witches Plus has been so successful for us, is because I mean we catered to the audience a little bit. Like they had specific concerns they wanted addressed with which I'm sure originally, I mean, we were like, maybe we'll do the errata, maybe we won't. Like the focus is on the options. But then, one thing led to the other. The APG errata came out. Some people on the sub were a little miffed, and then we made, we had to talk. We're like, oh, kind of got to, right? So, and I think if more content creators could come there and kind of be willing to have that dialogue, like, hey, what is it that I can make for you so that your game can be what you want it to be? Like, that's where I think everybody can come together and have just like a really good time playing a game that, you really enjoy.
Definitely. And that I was just gonna ask you about how you thought Witches Plus and the Reddit inclusion, the Reddit bump would have helped. So I'm glad to hear you tackled that.
Yeah, I mean, I think our best part about it was when we came back to say, hey, by the way, Foundry. And that sub, I mean, if you say Foundry, they're like,
oh yeah.
Did you say Foundry? Like,
everyone's heads perks up.
Yeah, they're like, excuse me, Foundry. I'm here for the Foundry, please. One Foundry, like all about it.
Yeah, when I wrote the Foundry, my Foundry module for Spell Tricksters, I saw another big surge of sales. It was like, it peters, after the initial bump, and then you write that Foundry module, and people are like, oh wow, a lot of people just don't even know the book exists, and then I suppose there were some other people just waiting for the Foundry module. Anyone out there who is a Pathfinder Infinite creator, you can check out our Discord at infiknight.net, and we have various tutorials and people willing to help you learn how to create your own Foundry module for your products. And it really helps get it out there because, like Mana Sven says in chat, Foundry makes everything better.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I also saw a shout out here on the first page here in Witches Plus for a product called
Fabled Familiars.
There you go. I made you say it first.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, that's fine. It's funny because Derry and I got Derry involved with that project as well because why not, right? Like, we seem to be a good team, and I'm hopeful that maybe Derry can kind of find a way to get. We've talked about involvement, but right now, I believe. I mean, Derry, do you want to chime in? I think you mentioned something about on the podcast, but
yeah. So our witch has a familiar who is very talkative already, and we looked at. We wanted to have not too much from the thing, just a teaser to get some people invested in the full book when it comes out. And I think we'll probably look into adding more stuff later. But for now, we are our witch's familiar has a familiar speciality, I believe. Is that the word?
Yeah, that is the word. Yeah. That is the mechanic name. Is
which is basically like little. Yeah, specialities for your familiar, which give them a whole subset of new skills. And this one is a scholarly familiar, which has made him very, very useful. Well, when he's not rolling a load of nat ones, very useful in helping identify monsters in combat and figure out how to take them down. It's been really fun. We haven't had as many. Because we're going to be playtesting it a lot harder in a home game, where we're throwing on like a load of different stuff. Like, I won't spoil anything, but there's some really cool stuff, and I cannot wait for them to be made public. But the scholarly familiar stuff, even that, it is so much fun. It really makes it a lot more engaging. It feels less like you have a pet and more like you have an NPC who just happens to fit into your pocket. It's really great.
That is awesome. And I'm sure anyone who gets Witches Plus is also going to want Fabled Familiars, given how important familiars are to witches.
Oh, very much so.
In fact, I think that's, Derry was it's a miracle. I don't know. You think of all the synchronicities that lined up for this. It's really weird, but like, Derry was just like, I'm writing a supplement for witches. And I was like, yeah, I love witches. Like, I'm interested. And then we just got to talking. And then I was like, this is going to be a match made in heaven. Like, so good. And it just worked out, a little bit, I don't know, almost perfect. And I think witches is perfect for familiars. As far as if there's, I think we're probably going to do a little bit of definitely more nods to each supplement. I think it would be more fun to kind of bring them a little bit closer tied. But yeah, it's a really, I think it's a excellent pairing, right? Like, you got to have cheese and your wine, right? And I think those two would go very well together.
Exactly. Perfect.
There's some stuff in Fabled Familiars, especially, that really, really goes in well with witches, and vice versa. Like, there's stuff from both that just have this, like two jigsaw pieces clicking together. They were not designed to click together, but like when you look at some options from X and some options from Y, you're like, wow, these fit so nicely together.
It's almost like they didn't know they were missing each other until you see them.
Exactly.
And then you're like, that's great. I love that.
Oh. One quick little thing though. I see that our subscriber Rainbow Whimsy in chat was saying that I probably know nothing about witches with talkative familiars. And just 1 second. Because they sent me this in the mail, and it's adorable, and I just wanted to show people at one point. Is it up yet? Oh, I have a delay. Oh, too close. Sorry about that.
My God.
It's gorgeous.
It's too shiny in this bag. It's their familiar. It's a plant familiar, and we've just kind of had
cute.
to
That's great.
throw together the rules for having a plant familiar that wasn't a Leshy. But I'm hoping there will be more rules for it in Fabled Familiar, so that they could further customize their little friend here. Oh, I should just be using OBS so I can make sure I could get it there. There we go. And I was
There
really
actually is a
touched.
teensy expansion to the Wort Witch in the errata section. So there's a little bit of a nod there.
Great.
But I think Fabled might help. We'll see.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Any more toys I could throw at that familiar will be amazing. So we're just going to we're going to dive into the book. People are here to see the book, and we should probably dive in there. Witches Plus, an expansion and errata to the core class. First thing that pops up is we have a bunch of new patron themes. Again, I'll go alphabetically. Derry, do you have a favorite among these?
I think I'm a sucker for the Streets patron, which is basically you are empowered by like either like the spirit of a city or a town, or maybe a genius loci is your patron or something like that. And it's one of the archetypes from first edition that made me fall in love with Pathfinder in general. Was the urban witch, I believe. And I really love the idea of like a witch in like in a city, you know, like tending to the moss and like the leaves or the stuff sprouting through the pavement. And I guess people also seem to really resonate with it as well. I'm a huge fan of Streets. I really like that one a lot.
Awesome. Yeah, and that hex cantrip is really useful. Lost in the Crowd lets you target a creature and make it so that they can't tell who's their ally and who's their foe, because everyone kind of looks the same.
Mm-hmm. It was slightly inspired by JoJo's Bizarre Adventure of all things. But I'm very fond of it. It's definitely, if I were making a witch, I would probably be jumping straight to Streets.
Awesome. Hey, everything's a JoJo's reference in every book. You can't escape
so
it.
True. It really is. I mean,
it really
the whole
is.
Summoner class, really.
Right?
I mean,
the entire Summoner class.
God.
A little bit, right?
All right. And how about you, Tony? Do you have a patron theme here that you really like?
Truth be told, Streets is up there. If I had to pick my favorite of Derry's, it would probably be the Sea Witch. I really like, the whole ocean, pirate vibes that totally just you plug and play with that one. If I was picking one of my own, it would probably be the Clockwork Witch, just because I went a little off the rails. I was like, let's do some gadget fun. Let's have a little. Let's do something different, because I really like the style of, I liked what Baba Yaga did with the witch, right? It made it a little different. And I think that when it comes to patrons, I think it would be cool if they kind of explored that avenue of trying to make the witch, a little more off kilter than just a traditional caster. So
exactly, yeah.
I
did that a little bit with the Mephistopheles one as well, where you add a little bit extra fun, and it really, it's just really nice.
Yeah, the contracts. That's
yes.
Yeah, for people who are checking out their own copy of Witches Plus, make sure to read that text under the name of the patron. Don't just skip to the hex like you might be tempted to, because there's a lot of really cool stuff in a lot of these themes.
We definitely that's, you can be tempted to skip the flavor text on some of the things sometimes, but there's a couple of these where you're missing out. So just make sure you give it a little extra read.
Yeah, like Mephistopheles, you could help craft infernal contracts, and Clockwork, your familiar will learn gadget formulas, which is really cool. I love that so much. Then of course with Clockwork, your hex lets you just make gadgets.
So it was tricky because gadgets are pretty strong, and so I had to look at Inventor, right? Like I had to look at the Gadgeteer, kind of see like what it was getting away with. So I needed a way for a gadget to be limited, but I also wanted to give the witch the option to basically have it on a whim. And I thought, what better concept than like your witch is like go gadget whatever, and then and then they just make it show up, but they have to know the gadget, so that was kind of where I was coming from with it, and I kind of tried to leave it. I think I struck an okay enough balance. Some people might look at it and be like, okay, but I think it's there. It's a lot of fun. I'll say that.
Awesome. Yeah, and same with Mephistopheles. Getting a hex that forces you to make a target to do something or bad stuff happens. I love those kinds of spells that lets the GM kind of play too, gives them choices, and makes it really helps gamify it for the GM and remind them that they're also a player.
As a forever GM, that is exactly what I was going for. So thank you so much for noticing. Like, appreciate that. Like,
oh, no problem at all. I did like Spectral. I was immediately just pulled to Spirit's Blessing. I like the way it could be used both to help your allies by giving them a resistance to physical damage, or mess with your enemies, which would still give them the resistance, but now they have to do a flat check to interact with new objects, which that might not come up a lot, but when it does, it will be super useful. And of course, I like the idea of being a spirit who or a witch who communes with spirits. I'm just always a sucker for that. This character right here, I want to ask on page 3. The happy Undine Sea Witch with colorful staff and prosthetic arm.
That is Sanku. Sanku, Witch Prince of the Sea. And Sanku is the reason that this book started. Because so this is Dave's character for Ruby Phoenix. And he is a witch, and he's very much so inspired, like I said, by Ojamajo Doremi, which is a kids show from the 90s, I think. And we had originally been looking at like just going vanilla witch, but nothing fit the character, The closest I think was maybe like the Fate patron, maybe, but it didn't click right. And I decided, you know what, I'll make one patron. And then I was like, I could probably make a few more. And then it was, well, if I've got Tony on board, I could probably make a few feats. A few more lessons wouldn't be that hard. And then, but Sanku is the reason that this book exists. He is a sea witch, and he uses his sea patron stuff all the time. Absolutely,
awesome.
And I love him dearly, and I think people really will too when he's revealed to the public on Monday.
Amazing. So he'll have the Tidal Rings cantrip?
That's right, yes, which is basically a ranged grapple.
Awesome.
That went through a lot. I remember showing Tony my first draft for Tidal Rings, and it was like, you grab them and you do damage to them from a distance, and they have to make saves every turn, and Tony was like, no, this won't work. This is
I think it was a little nicer. But yeah,
it was nice,
kind of like that.
It was firm because it was like, this is too strong. And frankly, a lot of the feats had to be rigorously changed because I was coming from balance in subgrubs and standards is very different. So even though I've been playing Pathfinder 2e from the very start, I was coming in and I was definitely giving too many abilities to any one thing. So I think even a ranged grapple is very strong, you know?
Yeah.
Has Titan Mauler built in and everything.
It was to Derry's credit, like I love when I get I see like, because I don't know why I just whittle things down all the time when it comes to from the editing mind point of view, but I loved Derry's approach. I would call it aggressive, right? But it came out with these ideas that are just really cool. Like further on in the book, there's a feat called I think it's Supernatural Prodigy or Protege.
Yes, Protege. Yes,
that one is.
Oh,
the first
yes.
read on that one, I was like, how am I going to make this one work?
Oh man.
Because I was determined. I was like, all of Derry's ideas are really good. I just need to find a way to make them play nice.
Yeah, you have to pare back, you know.
Yeah, just a tad. Most of the time, we kept it all there. Like I think Streets came out really good. I like Streets.
Yeah.
I mean, I already said C is one of my favorites. I think Title is on point. I think it's because of the every turn thing. I like it. I think we're in a good spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think the only feat I think we had to ditch was, and we went back and forth on this one for a long time, was I had a level 1 feat which replaced a familiar with an animal companion. And when I did that, I was like, it can't be that damaging to class balance, can it? We'll just make the animal companion a little different. And, you know, the answer is no, it is that bad. We played tennis on it for like I think a week or two before we were like, yeah, this is going nowhere. But everything else, I think we did keep in one way or another.
We did, and
cool.
I think the reason that one ultimately had to get cut was it required a lot of changes to the base class. Like it couldn't really work as a feat on its own, and I think we just decided that it was probably a little bit more trouble than it was worth to try to get it there, because the concepts that Derry had were good. They were like, there's something here, but it was like, what am I going to have to rebudget to make it work? So maybe like Witches plus, you know, like
Witches squared.
Yeah.
Yes.
Witches squared, right? Yeah.
Yes. So Scrapyard Gizmo chat is also saying that Supernatural Protege definitely drew them in. So, but before we get too far off that, though, I'm curious. Everyone chat loves Sankyu, it looks like. Does Sankyu have an archetype?
Sankyu does have an archetype. What a leading question, Dustin.
I would ask regardless, sir.
I don't know, perhaps, if you have any stakes in the matter here. Yes, so Sankyu has an archetype. He is a spell trickster. And what spell tricksters are they are able to kind of modify their spells in new and fantastic ways. Like, for example, you might have, Fireball, but then there's the spell trickster version of it, which is Split Flames, I think, something like that, which lets you shoot 2 fireballs with a smaller area. And there's all sorts of ones like that. But specifically, we found this really fantastic upgrade to the spell trickster, because in core, there's only so many feats you could have, and most of them were for arcane, which doesn't really work for Sankyu, who is a primal caster. So we wanted to have more options, and we saw this great Pathfinder Infinite product, which added even more. Written Infiknight Tricksters by one Dustin Knight, perhaps.
I think I've heard of him.
Dustin Knight. Full disclosure for chat, I wrote that. It links in chat, and I had no idea that they were going spell trickster until I saw the tweet, and I'm like, oh, awesome.
Yeah, this was not actually pre-planned. It was just mentioned, like, oh yeah, spell trickster is something we are using in this, and he was like,
I'm so happy.
Oh, wait, since when? The interview was already scheduled at this point. No nepotism going on here.
Yes, so thank you so much. That makes me so happy. But this is about witches.
I will say one thing, though.
Okay.
Being able to Dave, in literally the last session, cast a spell trickster version of Tether, which usually ties a rope between you and another person.
Oh!
But that version of Tether... And I love it because your spell trickster stuff has a lot of anime influence in it.
It really does.
That particular version of Tether is Red String of Fate, and it ties 2 other people together, and it is by far the funniest thing that you can just throw on people in the middle of a fighting tournament and being like, ha! Red String of Fate! Because not only is it like, yeah, okay, it ties them together, but also there's that narrative insinuation that's just very playful. It's very fun.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad people are using that silly feat. Yes, but talking about amazing feats, Supernatural Protege. I was stunned when I saw this. I too immediately felt like there's no way that this could not be broken, and then I started reading it more and went, okay, no, this This is probably
Say
good.
thanks to Tony for that, because my one was broken.
We did.
My one gave you a permanent minion that could do spell casting.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
if that's even still here, but yes, it was very, very strong when I wrote it.
I'm sure we have an original somewhere, and that one would be. It would be funny to go back and read it. This one is admittedly, I do think it's pretty good. Like it's good. Like I think it's fine, but it's admittedly it's a good. And I think really the thing that made me ultimately say like we have to make this work. This is such a good idea. Is because of the themes behind it are just so good. They're so strong. Like the idea of a witch, who's dedicated to this patron, then takes on like, oh, I'm going to be the patron, right?
Yeah.
And then it gives the GM kind of almost two directions that they can communicate with the witch. They can do it with the patron, they can do it, or even the familiar. So kind of almost three ways. And then they can do it with the protege, which I think is really fun, like where the GM can kind of be like, oh, you found this, like humble, spell witch, or hedge witch who just like falls under your wing pretty easily. Like I love that concept. So if it doesn't work for everybody, that's fine. But I think it works. I think it's really fun.
It won't fit into every campaign. Like I know certainly Sanku is not going to be picking up a protege. He is 18 years old in the middle of a fighting tournament. It would be very strange for him to suddenly have a student, But in other campaigns, like I ran Hell's Rebels, for example, and I could definitely see a witch in Hell's Rebels, three patrons right there, picking up a protege and having them under their wing and teaching them. And they're so... My favorite thing about it is when you die, you can just pick up this protege as and technically you could do that anyway. But like the fact that it's written into rules that nice, you can have him inherit all your abilities, and like it's very fun, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's so AD&D in like the best way. That whole leadership to get your next character is really cool.
It's like a GM's dream, like honestly. Like it's a story that tells itself immediately, right? And you give the player kind of that in to that mechanical thread. And if the GM's already on board with like, protege in general, then of course they're eyeballing that ribbon if it's there. Like you got this whole vengeance story, like immediately right out of the gate. Like it's great.
I mean, that's the secret backdraw of this feat, is it makes your character expendable without another character creation session.
And also something that I very intentionally put in was that it doesn't specify how that PC has to die. Which means if you were an evil GM, you could have the protege secretly conspiring against your witch. Only to there are style, killing you, taking on your power, and taking on their own protege. I can't imagine that'll happen in many games, but it is certainly a possibility, meaning you really want to trust your protege when you are giving them that power.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's really cool.
That.
Yeah, me too.
It was very subtly put in. I was like, I don't know.
No,
but yeah,
it's Sith Lords, but with witches. That's so good. I love that.
I love it too. That's awesome. And hey, if you get a protege, it becomes that much easier to use Witch's Coven, right?
That's
Yeah.
That was where I was gonna say potentially you can kind of get in like. I don't think that it's bad on its own, but if you were packing that and Coven, and then you took like Monstrous Familiar with it. All right. Now you're flexing pretty hard. Like maybe that's I think it's fine. We're talking pretty high level, right?
Yeah, but if you were malicious, you could definitely cheese quite a lot. Yeah.
I'd love to see what that would look like, but I think it would be fine.
Yeah.
You have your own little adventuring party.
Right?
Like, you don't need these other people. You've got your protege, you've got your familiar that's turned into a giant dragon. Screw those guys.
Yeah.
We're going on our own adventure.
Yeah, for those listening, Monstrous Familiar, I absolutely love this feat. 16th level feat, once per day, you could transform your familiar into a terrible creature, unleashing the true fury of your patron upon your foes. It effectively lets you affect them with dragon form or monster form. So you could have that familiar participate in battle and really do more than reapply poison to your crossbow or hand you an interact item or something.
The reasoning behind the reason I made this feat is it's a very old inside joke from Dice for Roll. Because obviously on its own, yes, it's very cool, the idea of having your familiar suddenly transform into this like true form, as it were, right? It's very scary.
Right.
But when we were in our last campaign, Extinction Curse, we had a barbarian who's multiclass into witch. And if you actually go back to page 4, I believe, you'll see that familiar.
Oh, is that who that is?
Yes, that's the amazing Oddbody.
Oh.
And Oddbody was, Oddbody is the size of a small snake, right? But when we were commissioning art of Volio, the barbarian, and this familiar, we did neglect to mention that. So the commissioner drew the witch, and then this gigantic hulking snake that looked like this, like coiling behind him. And for the entire campaign, my one regret from Extinction Curse is the fact that I did not give Volio the ability to turn his familiar into a giant monster.
Right.
And when I was writing this, I was like, man, I'm not letting that mistake happen again.
Problem solved.
Problem solved.
I love that. That's super great.
Novel Enigma is saying, I believe after the comment about Protege, that you could fit so many characters in this thing.
You could.
You could.
That was literally... You know what the worst part is? I just realized. I believe you could cast humanoid form on your familiar. Well, actually, no. Your familiar can already do that.
Yeah.
It has one of the abilities.
Yeah,
God,
Master
you really
Form, you're
could.
okay.
Yeah.
You're okay.
Yeah, you really could just have 3 characters in one. Wow.
Exactly. Plus your patron, if you want to count that, depending on how much your GM lets you control that.
Patron sends an avatar, and then party of 4. You're ready to go. Just get out, do your thing.
Oh, and if you use Binding Summon, which is one of our lessons, you can summon a creature and then keep it here on the plane. That's there you go. You've got a whole group going on.
I promise it's balanced. It's pretty balanced.
It is. It is
we're
very
making
balanced.
It sound like it's like basically like anybody listening's like, these guys are talking like this is a good thing. Like I promise it's fine.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
So you have feats here to expand on Accursed Nails. Love that. You got feats here for if you want to use leyline stuff from Secrets of Magic, which love those rules as well.
Tony was very clever.
Which, by the way, that's a little bit inspired by the shaman that we worked on together. Dustin, I don't remember we did a leyline feat for shaman as well. So my thought was that there was like a lot of concepts that the witch and the shaman tapping into that kind of like, especially with the leyline witch from PF1. It made a lot of sense to kind of explore that here too.
Definitely. Were there any other feats that you really wanted to shout out here, though, that we haven't already covered?
It's a good question. Derry, you got a favorite?
Bargain Soul has got a lot of people excited. And that was... It's a fun one, but it's also an extremely risky one, and I think that's what makes it very witchy. Is that basically you can regain your spell slots in exchange for becoming drained, doomed, and having a -1 to your death saving throws. And if you die while you have that drained and doomed, specifically from Bargain Soul on, you die and you can't come back. Well, technically, you can come back. Your soul is immediately sent to your patron, and your patron can make of it what they will. Like, for example, if it's Mephistopheles, he might turn it into a devil. If it's a sea patron, you might be turned into a water elemental. And that's in itself a whole little adventure. Like, your witch heroically sacrifices themselves to regain some spell slots and blast people to smithereens. But in the process is killed. But then the party's like, we can't, we gotta go save the witch. And, embark on a planar journey trying to save their soul and maybe even fight the creature that was made with your soul. I feel Bargain Soul is strong, but risky, like high risk, high reward,
Mm-hmm.
but has so much roleplay that you can do with it. I'm really fond of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You did a really good job with the making sure the memories are wiped. That was always an issue with the Face-Worn Prestige class from Pathfinder 1E, is if you died, you'd be taken to the first world to your patron. But your memories weren't wiped or whatever, and as per the Prestige class, you still had plane shift twice a day, so you could just be like, okay, I'm back.
That's actually very funny.
And especially if you picked like Ranalk as your patron, because you're not going to Ranalk. He's not going to stop you because
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
gone.
he's gone. Uh, if anything, he'll appreciate the betrayal. So like, fine. So yeah, so this does a good
Real
job of
recognized real.
exactly. So this does a great job of avoiding accidental immortality. And Tony, you have any feats here that you still want to shout out to that we haven't already covered?
I'm gonna cheat a little bit.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna pick. So this is Derry's brainchild, and I love this. Is final lesson. So I get to kind of cheat, and I pick like, a bunch of spells. But I loved the idea of the witch getting like that capstone hex. That really adds like that extra flavor, because there were some really cool hexes that you only got at 20th in PF1 that I thought were like really cool. Like for instance, I mean, we brought it back, but in a little bit of a different flavor. I had to kind of make it work differently, but the Eternal Slumber hex kind of made its reappearance. Yes, so like I think that 20th level, like your patron is almost giving you like, this is the last thing I could teach you. Like that, like that. It has pretty much everything I think that you'd want to have as that 20th level capstone for. In addition to that, of course, the 10th level slots. That 20th level feat really, I think, sells it for me.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
definitely.
honestly surprised that they didn't do it in core. It seems like such an easy
Agreed.
Yeah,
like step up to make. So, well, listen, I'm happy we came up with it at the very least.
exactly.
Yeah, brilliant idea.
There's also a bunch of new lessons in this book. So do each of you have a favorite lesson you want to bring up?
It's a tougher question.
Not for me. I really love Lesson of Binding. I love it so much. It makes summon spells so much more dynamic. Lesson of Binding, for context, lets you basically invest a focus point into a summon. And that summon will stay with you until your next daily preparations or until it is killed. You still need to sustain and command it in combat. It's not like an independent creature, although it does, have a personality. It's less that you're creating a creature out of thin air and more that you're literally calling something from another plane and binding it here. The reason that I like it is it suddenly makes a lot of summons options which were completely unviable before suddenly really good.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Summon Fae, you have the Nixie, I believe. And the Nixie can basically give you a minor wish once per day. And that minor wish can be anything. It's not good. It's not a strong wish.
Right.
It's like a level 1 effect. But you're like, man, I wish we had the exact weight needed to put down this trap or something, right?
Yeah.
You summon a Nixie and it gives you this, and you're like, thanks, Nixie. Normally, with Summon Fae, for example, you would not be able to do that because that effect takes more than a minute, which completely nullifies the ability that you would have to get something like that, right? Or again, using, this is a spoiler because we haven't actually even done it in the show yet, but using something from Spell Trickster is this Summon Spirit, which is a Spell Trickster thing to let you summon non-undead spirits, which usually will end up being more Asian-themed creatures, like the Kami and stuff. But one that we specifically have noted is the Spirit Guide. And the Spirit Guide whole thing is guiding people through overland travel and helping you get from destination to destination. That's not going to ever be useful to a summoner normally because he'll be there for a minute and then he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But with Binding Summon, suddenly you're able to kind of invest a part of your soul into keeping this thing here, and suddenly you have the world's best GPS.
Mm-hmm.
And it has so much roleplay potential and so much mechanical use. I'm a huge fan of how this one came out.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God it was balanced, because it could have been ridiculously strong, but I think Tony came in and cleaned it up and made the buy-in something you had to really consider, because this could leave you without any hexes for the rest of the day if you're not careful. And
Right.
obviously no witch wants that.
Right.
So I think it really works exactly right.
Yeah. And yeah, having somebody else work on your project with you is just the extra set of eyes, and of course all the expertise. Your project will definitely come out stronger. And if anybody out there wants to work on an Infinite project and doesn't know any other authors, you could check out the Discord at infiknight.net, and there's plenty of creatives on there who are all looking to share in work. We also have a quick thing here in chat from Paper Ninja asking if these are spider webs or a puppet. And I see that the... Go ahead.
That was going to be my favorite pick for lesson anyway, so please talk about that lesson. It's so good.
Oh, go ahead.
It's the, I mean, Derry, it is yours. Do you want to, by all means.
Which one?
The Sinister Stitching.
Sinister Stitching, yeah. That one is actually from first edition as well. It was it will let you stitch things together. Like, for example, you could web up someone's hand or their mouth or their eyes. Not in a gross way. That was something I very specifically said. It's an illusion. They're not actually there. Your eyes aren't actually stitched closed. That's nasty. Because it would kind of be a little squicky, I feel. But it basically can help not blind you, because again that'd be really strong. It could dazzle you. It could stop you from using some verbal components. It could stop you from using focus component or material components, which against the right opponent is very strong. But also, it's just fun. It feels like it feels very witchy to be able to like seal up someone's hand with stitches. You know, it's very Tim Burton.
Mm-hmm.
Very, yeah, perfect description.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, they're not showing up in the video, but if anyone here gets, when you get Witches Plus, you could leave your mouse over these illustrations, and they will explain what they are if you're curious. Like up here, this eyeball is actually a prophet rat with a large eye for a head. I love that. I am totally using that if next time I have a book. And to answer Helen's question, this witch is a puppeteer witch with their puppet familiar.
Mm-hmm. That's actually from our home game. That's going to be the one that we're playtesting with Fabled Familiars for a Stranger Thousands campaign that I'm running with Ritz-Tunes in chat.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely adore this character, and I cannot wait to see them in action. That's an Anadi, I believe. It's really cool.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. That the outfit does. Okay, yeah, I could see that as an Andy. That makes sense. Awesome. I gotta use that if this Anandi NPC I use ever comes back into the story. Awesome. I love it. Real quick, just going over, we also had somebody here in chat who mentioned the lesson of the apocalypse, the end of days, which I thought was really cool. It causes the ground beneath you to crack, difficult terrain to appear. It does 18d6 damage in 4 different 10-foot non-overlapping bursts. And what's really cool about it is the type of apocalypse is all up to your patron, and you have rules here for chaos, floods, a rapture, flames, freezing, nature, or a plague, which all modify the type of damage that's done and adds additional effects to the apocalypse, which is a really fun way to really hit hard which patron you chose. So
that's why I chose Final Lesson. I was like, there's too many good things here. Like, Lesson of the Apocalypse is fantastic. I love that.
Definitely.
It's so much. It's such a. I don't know. It really gives like kind of those. I don't know. Maleficent has always been like kind of a little bit of a witch to me, right? And so that whole I'm gonna make this entire wall of thorn, like just huge environmental changes like that. That always feels like the lesson of the apocalypse.
Right,
Yeah,
definitely.
that's exact. Like, I feel witches have this unique ability to, flavor wise at least, kind of be a vessel for some great evil or great good, or however you want to put it. And I felt that, like, being literally a harbinger of the apocalypse was such a fun concept. And at level 20, everything's going to be apocalyptic anyway.
Right.
So just letting your PC blast out their patron's will on the world, it just felt right.
Right. I completely agree. And probably the most, I don't know if this is the most lauded or not, but the first thing that I saw when this book was being talked about was the suggested errata for the witch.
Here it comes.
Here it comes. So you note that while the witch does have bright spots, there are opportunities for improvement. So let's just quickly go over what you suggest here for the errata. So first of all, he suggested that instead of instead of the phase familiar hex, you might as well get a level 1 class feat. That's really bold, giving a primary caster a level 1 class feat.
Oh no, actually, sorry. Maybe I mean, I have to check my version, but I think what the big change for the one, and this is the one that's, I guess if you were to say the biggest change we made, Derry, was probably this one. And that's, we said you don't get phase familiar at level 1.
Right.
You don't, that focus gets moved to a level 1 class feat that you could pick if you had a level 1 class feat. So if you were like a human, or if you chose your second level feat as that. And then instead of phase familiar, the focus spell that you get at level 1 is your basic lesson. So instead of getting it as a level 2 class feat, and I've talked about this at length a couple of times, but my biggest reason that I do this change is actually not because I think the witch is underpowered without having basic lesson at that level. It's because I have a problem with basic lesson being a choice at level 2. Because basic lesson being a choice at level 2, I mean, that's really, to me, where the witch gets a lot of their identity, because a witch is very much like, I can kind of pick and choose some magic from a couple of different locations. That's why all the other lessons kind of introduce different spells to their list, and they add like different vibes. Like, even if you're a like a divine, a fervor patron witch, you can still grab malicious shadow. You can still grab personal blizzard, right? There's no there's limits, but you get the idea. So I think that switch to me made the most sense, because I wanted to say, hey, they have to be limited to one focus spell. Most other classes, sorcerer, for instance, gets their focus spell at level 1. And to me, the patron cantrip with the spell slot being dropped, that's what made the most sense. And it really opens up your level 2 feat options, so that if you want to grab Enhanced Familiar, if you want to grab like Hair, which we kind of did a little bit to help Hair too, it's now an option without saying, hey, I'm giving up my basic lesson, which is such a pivotal feat in the build.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that a lot. I'm actually going to be working with Rainbow Whimsy in chat right after the show on rebuilding their witch using this errata and options from this book. So specifically, their basic lesson was Wilding Word, which you errated in this, that you could target one creature, not just a animal, fungus, or plant, which is useful because we're playing in Absalom, so there's not a lot of animals and plants lying around.
Yeah, there might be a crow every once in a while.
Right. Yeah, there's the occasional axe beak pulling a cart. But yeah, and this makes it so your Wilding Word is still stronger against animals, fungus, or plants, but you could still use it to do stuff to, humanoids are basically animals as well, so why not? It makes sense.
Yeah, so exactly. I think the themes of it, I kind of interpreted it as being like, your wildling words, right? They still work on anybody that's like, basically nature has its own calling, right?
Right.
It can bring upon you. And so that this one's actually, I've been running this particular errata since it's been a long time. I've thought that Wildling Word was just a little too focused. And I've always had that problem where, like, if I'm running a nature themed campaign, which is when people will probably want to play Wildling Word, it can be like obviously one of the best choices. But like you said, if you're in Absalom, I mean, what are you going to do?
Right.
And
Exactly.
if you wanted to be primal, I mean, before this supplement, your options were, all right, you like the cold or you like plants. Like those were your options, right? Like, or plants and animals, more or less. So I think making that little extra change to where it's like it has the incapacitation trait if it's against anything that isn't an animal, plant, or fungus. I think that was enough to me to make it like, all right, like you fight in lower level stuff, you're already kind of like, it's a little balanced on the idea that spending an action to cast a spell on something that's equivalent or lower level, or in the case of casting +1 at level at every odd level, you kind of get like a little more value out of it. Because it doesn't have to deal with the incapacitation rate. But above level against a human, all right, pretty limited. Maybe you need to pull out the big stops for this one. So I think the usability kind of works.
Totally. And then in Hex Focus spells, she's going to take Needle of Vengeance this level. So, hey, we got ourselves a better Needle of Vengeance, as it also makes them enfeebled on a critical failure if they try to attack the named creature. Needle of Vengeance does bad things to people who try to attack one named character of your choice to help protect your ally.
Yeah, that one, I think I ran a witch with Needle of Vengeance actually during the Magus playtest, and I'll say this, it was the best case scenario that spell could be used. And I think even with all of the best case scenario stuff, it felt wrong to get like the critical failure, and it just ended up being like, okay. And so like I felt like just that little extra dropping the enfeebled one on there, it really kind of like that's a meaningful sustaining enfeebled one is like already good, right? So like having the damage with that like on a critical failure, I felt like that was enough to kind of like bring it in line, because people complain about that particular hex on the sub a lot. So that was the thinking.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then you have some alterate. Oh, did you have any of these other cantrips or focus spells that you wanted to bring up? What inspired you to change them?
I mean, Derry, do you have a particular one? I mean, we talked about all the changes together, and I think that, I mean, Derry kind of told me that I did a good job, so that was nice to hear.
Yes.
But do you have a favorite? Like,
you really championed Diarata, because I remember being like, I don't know what people would change, and you were like, I do, and you put them together so well. I don't really have anything about the focus spells particularly, but for the class feats, there is definitely a line that I think you did such a nice job on. If you don't mind me jumping ahead to
Please,
those.
go for it.
I love what you did with the Cauldron line. With like back again with our Barbarian, we had our Barbarian Witch, and he was technically the healer for our party because he picked up the Cauldron feat. And he was brewing potions, but we realized very quickly the crafting rules are quite boring. That's a complaint that so many people have had, and it looks like they're going to be updating that. But it didn't feel witchy, you know? This Cauldron line lets you basically be a mini alchemist. And I think that is such a fun change. And for anyone who wants to have the fantasy of, I'm a little witch and I'm brewing my little potions, it is such an improvement because it's immediate, it's flexible, you don't have to wait 4 days to have a few potions. It's very good. And you have Cauldron, and then you have the temporary potions feat as well, which is a reaction hex spell now. And
that's Witch's Bottle. Temporary, Witch's Bottle. That's the one.
Yeah.
Temporary potion. Sorry, gives you more potions you can make every day. Right.
Yeah, that's the one.
Those 3 feats go together like bread and butter. And if you want to have a potion making witch, I think they all work so nicely and so cohesively together. I really love them. Yeah. Also, Merksite. Just Merksite is now actually good, which it's such a fun feat now. Like, it was always a fun feat, but now it's a fun feat. It's good, is the thing.
You can feel good about dropping 8th level on on something like that. I feel like, and I mean, if I were to pick one, I mean, it's funny, like on so I have the site that we're hosting our Foundry module on. I have literally only thing on there I have is a rant about Eldritch Nails. It is like it is long. I go on it, and I probably have said it many times. I'm not going to go into it again, but I have problems with the way that it's written, mostly because you just can't use it with any hexes when you actually get these beats. So, which we helped solve that already with adding a bunch of new options in this book, but. Particularly when I wrote Bloodbound Glyph, I was like, I'm writing a feat. I'm writing an option here that even if people don't like the errata, they've got something, they can jump into, right? So
right.
And also just sorry.
Go ahead.
The fact that the Witch's Hut, because the Witch's Hut is such a fun concept, but the fact that it really was not worth, like, I would say maybe a level 10 fee is what would have been worth as written. And with the errata, something I wanted to mention as well was we're not really intending on doing errata very much in future products, because we want to do more, but like you had mentioned that what was the reason that was it that someone left Paizo in the middle of this and the witch kind of got
so
left on the side?
I have all tinfoil hat theories about that, but we have to keep in mind when it actually happened. So I loved Liz Lydell's design so much. I literally Risky and I had a very long tussle on the Paizo forums about what the witch should look like. And there was this occult only. No, 3 spell lists is fine. I was like, I want there to be 4. What about Melisandre? She's divine. And this was like pages. So like, it was quite the battle. So, but
I think I actually remember that battle. I remember reading it.
Maybe I'm ashamed of some of it. So maybe, but I was very passionate. But I think that Liz's vision was like really strong, and I'm not sure. I can't really say what happened. I know this was either right during COVID, or like it had either. I'm not sure exactly when the APG dropped, or it was just before. The playtest happened before for sure, but I want to say before the APG dropped, it was 2020. I could be totally wrong on that. It's been like a couple years now, so it's tough to think back on things. And Liz did go to Wizards of the Coast. So my theory was, there's so much going on with COVID, maybe some of the options came through a little undertuned. And so, and I think the themes are on brand. It's just there's some of the things a little bit, too far gone. Although you mentioned Witch's Hut, and I was just thinking we were talking about now there's patrons, Witch's Hut, familiar, protege. Like we just keep adding to the list of things.
I think you'd have to really intentionally set. Also, like you only have 3 actions in a turn. You're not going to be able to control all of them.
Right.
True.
So, I also think any GM that notices their player picking up every single one of them should be like, "What you doing there? There a reason you're doing that?" Generally, I don't like. I think even if you were a player, you'd start to feel crowded after a while, right?
For sure.
So, I don't think anyone's, maybe not the best design to be like. I don't think anyone's going to do that, but it would be a very strange decision to do that. But I
think it's really cool actually, because now that you pointed out, because you wouldn't have enough actions to command everybody. So imagine like this witch running around. It's like a nursery. It's like, no, no, you come back here. Like, no, Witch's Hut. Like,
you're inside of the Witch's Hut, and you're pointing down, being like, no, monster's familiar. Don't go that way.
Pretty much.
Oh gosh,
everything's just out of control.
Oh, very
just doing this. It's too much in one day.
Yeah. But like, I think the way you said it when we had been talking about it was like, in general, we don't want to do errata for every class, because the way you put it was best, which was like, we don't know better than Paizo, obviously. We're not trying to like say we can do it better. But I think it's just in this case there was some points
people
where it's something that people had been saying that they would like. And
Gotcha.
We just kind of codified it, put it into mechanics, and now people can have it, which is I think not something we'll do every single product, because I don't think every class needs massive errata. but
Not at
which
all.
certainly just needed a little bit of balancing.
And really only just like a couple of, mostly just
Nudges.
options. Mostly just options.
Yeah.
Right. And you just, as you said earlier, this now has a Foundry module. Oh, looks like we just
Oh,
lost
Tony has passed into the great beyond. But yes, I will continue talking. Oh, is he back?
Is he back? Oh, he's back online. I won't move your head around.
I'm so sorry.
Come
I
over
don't know
here.
what happened.
It's okay.
All
It's
good.
okay.
All good.
Discord
There
was
we
like,
go.
"Get
It
out of
happens.
Yeah, Tony really did lose his face.
here." Yeah, that's so. Yeah, Paizo heard me talking smack. They were like, "Errata, get out of here."
They were hexing you from a distance.
Pretty much.
Oh no.
Oh gosh, that would have been a good one. A way of hexing people from a distance, like cursing people in their sleep. Dang, for witches
Which
squared.
is plus. Yeah, which is squared.
Which is squared.
Here it comes.
Anyway, point is, gosh, what was the question before?
Foundry.
Foundry. Yes, we have a Foundry module.
Great. And where can people find it?
It is actually linked right in the front page of Witches Plus.
Yeah,
the whole
cover.
book the whole book and Foundry together cost $5, which
awesome.
It's meant to be as affordable as possible because it's not about making a profit necessarily. It's about giving people something good. But the profit is nice, I suppose.
It helps. It helps.
Yeah, having money is one of my favorite things in the world.
Right, but mostly you want to see people use your stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like I could have just made a C patron and said this is for Sanku, bye, but it felt more legitimate. I think, like it feels there's like homebrew and third-party content are technically the same thing, right? But there's something more real feeling about saying in your show we are using third-party rules rather than we're using a homebrew rule. So it really was about giving people the same things that I'm using in my game, and now you can have it too. And we put in some art. We put in Sean did such a fantastic job with like the graphic design.
Yeah,
It is so
shout out
gorgeous.
to Sean.
Mm-hmm.
Love Sean.
Yeah.
It is generally so nice. It was a challenge getting the Foundry module together. This is my first time making a Foundry module, and when we put it out, a lot of the first comments were like, "Hey, this is broken," and I was like, "Rats."
Yeah.
That's not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we worked on it pretty fast, all things considering. Got things fixed like within the day, which I was not expecting us to do. But I did a part of the work, then I handed off to you, Tony, and you did like a whole load of it then. And
I mean, truth be told, you did most of the legwork, but like I spent like a good amount of time just trying to figure out what I was doing. But then when I got there and I was like, oh, okay, here's what I need to do. It was pretty easy to put the last bandage on it to get some of the broken links.
Right.
I think it came out great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, so with that we have Witches Plus, the potential prequel to Witches Squared.
Witches Squared, yeah, right.
We do know, I think, what we're gonna do next once we have the time for it.
Oh,
we're not gonna say anything now, I don't think.
Oh,
but we are thinking of more classes plus, and there are a few options. One in particular, I think we're very excited about, but another day.
Awesome. Oh well, I can't wait to hear more about it when you're ready to reveal it to everyone. So thank you both for joining us. Do either of you have any shout outs, news, or any other projects you want to shout out to while we're here?
You first.
Well, there is the Ruby Phoenix arc of Dice Roll, which is starting on Monday. We mentioned that earlier, but if you are looking for a martial arts tournament using options from Witches Plus and Fabled Familiars, and Infinite Tricksters, and also Battlezoo Bestiary, but that's not for Sanku. You'll be able to find that starting Monday, and then we'll be updating every Monday afterwards. We have a non-spoiler Discord that you can join. We have a merch store which sells now T-shirts, including the Sanku from this book because I love that piece of art so much, etc., etc. So definitely check that out. And in the future, I did do a Kickstarter for Safe Haven, which is a Wild West themed adventure module and setting. And I've been kind of quiet about that publicly for a while. I've been doing updates, but like just kind of letting everyone know that that is picking up some major momentum, and I am hoping that will be something that I'll be publishing as well in the near-ish future, certainly before the end of the year. I'm very excited about how that's been going on. It's been good. And there's even a witch of its own in that one, which Tony has been helping balance my character options, and you seem to be happy with how that came out. So
it's
that's
gorgeous.
the highest praise I can ask for.
I loved it. First read, I was
Powder
like,
Crone.
Yes, that is such a good name. Like, I love that. So good.
I'm very
That's
proud
great.
of it.
That's awesome. Well, there are links to both those projects in chat. So if you're listening to this, you could head on over to chat and click on those. How about Tony?
So right now, I mean, honestly, I've just hit. This is my quote week off, so
Okay.
haha, sort of, But right now, I'm focused on trying to get through Brewmaster. And the announced winners, I'm told, Gent has informed me that it should be this weekend, so I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what people think of what we all decided because I was a judge during that. But my next major project that I'm working on, besides the aforementioned stuff with Derry, is Fabled Familiars, which I have. I mean, Dustin. I'm spoiler alert. Dustin Knight is going to come write some cool stuff for us on Fabled Familiars. But I'm also lucky enough to work. My editor is Isabel Thorne, which I'm sure you guys have heard that name before.
Yes.
She's on the cover of Knights of Lastwall. And then Joshua Hennington is writing, and he did excellent job with like rules for party familiars. You guys want to check those out. And then I've got Mikhail Raccoon attached as well for some really cool, fun stuff coming. So be on the lookout for Fabled Familiars. We're targeting Volume 1 for August right now, and I'm hopeful to still achieve that. But we'll, how projects go. We'll see.
Right. Awesome. And yeah, everybody should go ahead and check out Brewmaster's Compendium on the Pathfinder 2e and Pathfinder 2e Creation subreddit. You'll see them pinned to the top. When's the next round of the contest starting?
The next round will be about 2 months from now. I don't know if we have an official date for that yet.
Sure.
And I would probably have to check to be sure who the judges are. I think that it's Orphane, how it's played, and then so Orphane is the Botanical Bestiary author. Absolutely incredible work, And then how it's played does the popular videos, did the interview with Logan Bonner and Mark a couple of times, and then the I want to say it's either Jacob W. Michaels, or it could be shoot, I'm gonna feel bad if I forget the name, but because I can't remember what the order is. So I think one of the author judge, to be determined. I'd have to go back and look. But
that's fair. And if everybody out there listening wants to check out even more amazing content, you can sign up for our mailing list at mail.infinite.net. Every week we send out information about the latest and greatest Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite products, including exclusive coupon codes sent directly to your email every Friday right before the show starts. So there's another link in chat there for you. And thank you very much, Paper Ninja, for doing all of that awesome work for us. And with that, thank you very much for joining us. This was great. I can't wait to help my player adjust their witch to all these new awesome rules and options. And I can't wait to see your next releases.
Yeah, thanks for
Thanks
having
so
us.
much.
Dustin.
No problem. And thank you to all of our audience, especially our followers and subscribers. Please make sure to check out our Discord at infinite.net. And remember, there's infinite possibilities with Infiknight reviews.
Woo!